The wealth and splendor of Chief Kwene Ojoma, a businessman from Delta State, were known across Nigeria. He built his empire from the ground up, moving from the swamps of Asaba to the glass tower of Lagos. His reputation for shrewdness in business was second only to his devotion to his wife, Ejiro, whom he loved dearly. Together, they were a perfect couple. Ejiro was kind-hearted, soft-spoken, and graceful, a woman who made even the most difficult situations seem easy. Their home, an expensive mansion in both Asaba and Lagos, was filled with laughter and warmth until the day Ejiro went into labor for their first child. It was supposed to be the happiest day of their life, but it turned into the darkest. Ejiro never came back from the hospital. She died, giving birth to their daughter, Ekojoka. Chief Kwene was shattered, his world torn apart. In his grief, he poured all his love into Ekojoka, vowing to raise her in honor of the woman he had lost. Every time he looked at his daughter's face, he saw Ejiro, and it comforted him in ways words couldn't describe. Years passed, and Ekojoka grew up into a sweet little girl, the light of the father's life. But as time went on, people began to suggest that Chief Kwene should remarry. A man of your stature cannot remain single, alone, they said to him. At first, he resisted. How can he ever replace Ejiro? But as Ekojoka grew older, Chief Kwene felt the pressure. His business was booming, requiring more of his attention, and Ekojoka needed a mother figure. Reluctantly, he decided to remarry, believing it to be the best option for both of them. Here comes Pamela, a striking woman from a prestigious family. On the outside, she appeared perfect, well-educated, charming, and seemingly nurturing. Chief Kwene convinced himself that Pamela could never replace Ejiro, but she could at least give Ekojoka the maternity love she deserved. The marriage, however, was not one of love but of convenience. At first, Pamela was everything Chief Kwene had hoped for. She smiled warmly at Ekojoka, playing the role of a doting stepmother. She accompanied Chief Kwene to social events, standing by his side like a trophy wife. But when Chief Kwene wasn't around, Pamela's smiles vanished, replaced by a cold, calculating expression that only Ekojoka saw. It began with subtle things. Pamela would make Ekojoka clean after herself, not allowing her to play like other children. Then she would insist that Ekojoka wasn't allowed to eat with the family, claiming she was too clumsy for the dining table. Whenever Chief Kwene was on one of his frequent business trips, Pamela's cruelty deepened. Ekojoka was forbidden from entering the main house and was made to eat leftover scraps in the servants' quarters. Ekojoka was made to wash all her clothes, even that of the stepmother, and the maids were not allowed to help her. Ekojoka was too afraid to speak up. Her stepmother had warned her, "If you tell your father, I will make your life even worse than this." And so the little girl kept quiet. Enduring the abuse in silence, she would often stare at the portrait of her mother, Ejiro, in the living room, praying for her protection. But with each passing day, her burden weakened under the strain of neglect and malnutrition. Years went by, and Ekojoka, once a lively, cheerful child, grew frail and withdrew. Chief Kwene noticed the changes, but Pamela always had an excuse. "She's growing up, that's all. Children become moody at this age," Pamela would say with a smile. Distracted by his booming business, Chief Kwene didn't see the signs of what was happening in his own home. Then came the day everything changed. Chief Kwene had been away on a particular long business trip, traveling to Europe to close a major deal. When he returned home, he immediately sensed something was wrong. The house was too quiet. Unusually, Ekojoka would come running to greet him at the door, but that day there was no sign of her. His heart pounded in his chest as he called out, "Ekojoka, Ekojoka, where are you?" Pamela appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands in towel, her face marks of indifference. She's in her room resting. She hasn't been feeling well. Chief Kwene hurried up the stairs and into his daughter's room. What he saw nearly stopped his heart. Ekojoka laid on the bed, pale and barely conscious. Her once vibrant eyes were sunken and her body was alarmingly thin. He rushed to her side, cradling her frail body in his arms. Ekojoka, what happened? Weakly, Ekojoka tried to speak, but her voice was barely a whisper. Daddy, she called out. Without waiting another second, Chief Kwene carried her to his car and sprawled to the nearest hospital. When they arrived, the doctors immediately rushed her into the emergency ward. Chief Kwene paced the waiting area, his mind racing. How had this happened? His daughter had been perfectly healthy before he left. Had she fallen ill all of a sudden? Hours passed before a doctor finally emerged from the room. His face was grim. Chief, we need to talk, he said, motioning for him to sit down. What's wrong with my daughter? Chief Kwene demanded. The doctor sighed, slipping through Ekojoka's medical reports. Your daughter is severely malnourished, Chief. She's also showing signs of long-term physical abuse, bruises, scars, injuries that have all gone untreated. Chief Kwene's mind went blank. Abuse? Malnutrition? How could that be possible? Ekojoka had everything she had ever needed. His heart hammered in his chest as the weight of the doctor's words sank in. But I don't understand, he stammered. She's been at home. She has a stepmother looking after her. The doctor's expression hardened. Chief, someone has been neglecting your daughter. This didn't happen overnight. You need to look closely at what's happening at your home. Chief Kwene felt the ground shift beneath him. Could it be Pamela? No, she wouldn't. She couldn't. He had married her to care for Ekojoka. The nagging dad he had been pushing aside for years suddenly flooded his mind. These excuses, the changes in Ekojoka's behavior, the distance that had grown between them, had he been blind to all? His investigation began that very night. He quietly spoke to the household staff, those who had always been loyal to his late wife Ejiro. The more he dug, the more horrified the truth became. The maid revealed how Pamela had tormented Ekojoka, making her do chores, depriving her of food, and isolating her from the rest of the family. But what shocked Chief Kwene the most was a secret that the older maid had kept buried for years. Chief, the maid whispered, her voice trembling. I didn't want to say anything back then, but I have always suspected that Madam Pamela has something to do with Madam Ejiro's death. Chief Kwene's blood ran cold. What do you mean? The maid hesitated, but then the words stumbled out. On the day Madam Ejiro went into labor, Madam Pamela came in to visit her in the hospital. No one knew why she was there, but I overheard her talking to the nurses. I didn't think much of it at the time, but now I wonder. Pieces of puzzle began to fall into places. Pamela had been around even before Ejiro's death. Could she be responsible? Chief Kwene's mind raced as he pieced together years of small overlooked details. The strange way Pamela has inserted herself into his life, and how she had been so quick to marry him after Ejiro's passing. Determined to uncover the truth, Chief Kwene hired a private investigator. What they discovered was beyond anything he could have imagined. Pamela had been plotting for years. She had slowly poisoned Ejiro during her pregnancy, ensuring that her death would seem natural during childbirth. Once Ejiro was out of the way, Pamela positioned herself to marry Chief Kwene, gaining access to his wealth and control over Ekojoka. Chief was furious. When confronted, Pamela denied everything at first, but under pressure, her facade cracked. She admitted to the abuse but still claimed innocence regarding Ejiro's death. However, the investigator had gathered enough evidence, witnesses from the hospital, record of strange visits Pamela made to the local herbalist, and testimonies from those who knew her before she married Chief Kwene. It was a betrayal that shattered Chief Kwene to his core. He had led this woman into his home, his life, and worst of all, near his daughter. In the end, Pamela was arrested and faced justice for her crimes. But the damage had already been done. She tried to beg Chief, claiming she was pregnant. Her hope was shattered when Chief Kwene showed her photos of her and her lover. As Ekojoka slowly recovered in the hospital, Chief Kwene sat beside her, holding her hand, tears streaming down his face. He had failed to protect her just as he had failed to protect her mother, but he vowed that from that day forward, nothing could come between them again. Ekojoka was all he had left of Ejiro, and he would never let anything or anyone hurt her again.